Okay.
So back to the thing. Whereas instant learning allowed you to annotate with images and with videos, this is straight up text. So it's simpler, but it is also, the functionality is also narrower, which is fine because essentially this is what we were talking about here. I want to do things with text. Yuri, are you coming? Are you joining us? Are you on the spectating? Are you?
I'm waiting for my student because I have a class.
Oh.
I hope you don't mind.
No.
Yes,
Because
we
I
do.
have missed all of it.
Yeah, compilation.
Particular way.
Go sit, wait somewhere else. You're a distraction.
Okay. This is the last meeting.
I see I am.
Escalating slowly.
I cannot stop looking at
Okay.
you. He's used to that. Don't worry about him.
Okay.
He's used to
Okay.
bad treatment.
Jose
He's
Antonio,
from,
you were of course
from
there
Ukraine.
I was.
on
He
Monday.
memorized the whole
You
chapter.
memorized the chapter. Okay, so
You memorized the last chapter that we read?
Yeah.
So embarrassing for the rest of us.
Especially if you haven't read.
Again.
No, I didn't go.
We're being so honest right now.
Okay, now we are being honest. This is
Lola,
yours.
that's you.
So we're gonna start with Amy, because this doesn't require any kind of reading, any kind of preparation, and we sort of all talked about these things already. So yeah, what were your experiences
When I was learning a
when you were
foreign
learning a foreign language? Yeah.
let's see, in
writing.
writing. Well, when we talk about a long time ago, right? And we had to write a little essay. I just had a dictionary and wrote the essay, and that's it. It was very straightforward. Write an essay. Here's a dictionary, and do the best you can.
What were the essays about?
What were they about?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're talking 50 years ago. I had no idea. 40 years ago. I don't remember. Just maybe about the topic.
But there was simply writing.
It was what?
There's a distinct writing component, writing practice involved in your language learning
Yes.
experience.
Yes.
Mhm.
Right.
Well, it's not it's not intuitive. It's not a given because Jose Antonio didn't have
I
any
didn't
writing.
have any.
Yeah. 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 We did. We had not so much speaking, but we did have writing. Yeah.
I went back to the question after I answered it, I remembered, and for me there was a very clear distinction between what is just the concept of writing and more of academic writing, knowing how to write for particular genres. And for me that was problematic because I did not have such a good foundation. So I actually learned better, proper writing skills in my own in Spanish when I was writing papers for college here for the first time.
Oh.
So it was really difficult because I had to combine both the linguistic aspect in English plus stylistic.
And so it wasn't structured for you either.
No.
So, but it was not for
because-
learning the language. It was more for a class.
Exactly.
So it's a
Because-
bit different then.
Because I
Yeah.
learned English and Spanish simultaneously in the school, but it was just, you're going to write about this, a story, blah, 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 so I didn't know how to do the writing in English, but
Right.
not for academic
Yeah.
purposes at all.
Yeah,
And
but
that was very problematic.
in Europe, in university, I don't know if it's different now, but we didn't learn academic writing at all. Like the students here who do essays and papers all the time, we never did that.
We didn't have that. No.
Yeah, I was talking more about high
When you
school.
said that, then I was thinking about it, and I
Yeah.
think there's a very different concept of just learning to put the words together.
Right.
Yes, I learned from a very early age, but the actual concept of forming maybe an essay or an argumentative essay or an expo, that I learned in college here,
Because that is an essential part of college here, but not so much in
and I
Europe.
applied
Which is great.
to
Yeah.
Spanish.
We're
It's one of the
talking
big
about college
benefits of
writing,
college
writing
here.
Yeah.
only. So, but this is actually it's a pretty good example because you learn to write in the foreign language, and there's a certain process to it, and it's usually approached in a traditional way, such as that. But it is only later that you realize that, okay, there are genres, there are different ways to put this. There are rules that are not just resonant with grammar, with lexical choices, with orthography. There's a whole other dimension of it, right? And this is something that we tend to think of as separate from the actual writing learning,
Well,
right?
that was my experience as a learner. It's not as a teacher.
Okay.
And I think that nowadays in our second language classes, we do, I think, teach it together. Because we do give them a purpose for the writing task. So if this is going to be a blog post, for example, what is it that you are going to articulate, how you're going to organize it? If you are going to write an email, what are the parts of the email? What type of language you're going to need in the email? So I think that for me at least, there was a disconnect between how I learned and how I teach.
Is this something that you guys...
Well, I used to give writing things, little assignments as homework, but I never do that anymore. Any writing we do in class. Because of Google Translate, you know, they take 2 minutes, do the assignment, but I know that that's what they do. Because that's what I did when I learned Italian. And I did what I now just done. So...
I allow them to use the apps that are...
Yes, you can allow it if they then go back and correct Google Translate. But Google Translate has become so good, at least in Dutch, that there's not that many mistakes anymore. Like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we did something, we did little text that we translated into Dutch, and then I put it in Google Translate, and it had to see how bad the Google Translate did, so to correct it. But that's not the case anymore, because it's so good.
As of November 2016, they changed the entry.
Yes, so a couple of years ago this was still the case, and now correct. So that's why it serves no purpose to let them do it at home, because they just know they do that. So what do they learn from that? Absolutely nothing.
True, however, if you give them the steps in order for them to have the tools and everything that they know how to approach writing the text directly in the target language, because I think that is the key, right? They look at this blank page and say, okay, how am I going to start writing a text from zero in Dutch, in Spanish, in Portuguese, in Italian, whatever it might be. And I think that if you reduce as much as possible that anxiety and that you work in class and outside of class with the multiple different steps that they have to do prior to reaching that step where
that's a very good point. That's of course true.
Then you reduce the stress factor, you reduce
and the chance that they really do it is much
exactly,
larger.
because if first you start with brainstorming of ideas, what type of vocabulary are you going to use? From the vocabulary, what are the grammatical structures that you're going to need? What are the connectors? What have you studied? What is your outline? Bring the outline to class and express and explain your outline and your ideas that you want to write about to a colleague. By the time they get to the actual writing, they already have 50% of it done.
That's very good. Yeah, I like that.
As we're talking, what I was thinking about is, so let's say you give them an assignment, right? And you tell them to write an email. And of course, then they do it, they produce it, they use Google Translate. But what Google Translate is going to do, it will translate everything, but it's not going to apply the genre.
Right.
Right? And then the question becomes, of course, okay, how different would it be?
Well, right, how different is it?
To write an email in English versus Dutch. In that case, probably not very different.
No.
Right? But email in English versus an email in Portuguese even, or Spanish, that would be different already. And this is something that Google Translate will not be able to bridge yet, if ever. And I think this opens up a space of possibility and something to focus on when language teaching. But then the next question is at what level? Is this something that can be done at the introductory or something that's more advanced stuff? Yeah. say. Okay, next question. And Vinny, I'm going to ask you again because we've
Okay.
kind of talked about that.
What does one need to know in order to be a successful writer in the online types of knowledge?
Unless, of course, you guys have
Familiar with
something to add to what you said on Monday.
a successful writer meaning, and a writer who can produce some sentences on paper, whatever they are. That's successful.
Well, yeah, you can produce sentences that fulfill, whatever rubrics or whatever requirements you use to,
And so a bit what Angie said, that you need to know to have what she does, these preliminary vocab, brainstorm, and then.
Okay, so let's try to think about it in terms of the available designs.
Okay.
Great. So vocabulary, yes, you continue to have that. That would be lexical knowledge.
Mhm.
What else?
And grammatical knowledge
Grammatical, sure.
is another available design. Knowledge of the genre,
Uh-huh.
I guess, right?
And the topic. Knowledge of the topic.
But
Maybe the topic, yeah.
The topic, but that would be more in line with vocabulary.
Would it though?
Grammar.
Well, vocabulary, sure, but would it be just vocabulary? Or would you?
Well, more also the culture if you have to write.
I mean, you
Right.
work with poetry a lot, right? With
Yes.
poets, so usually, I mean, I would bet that you do a bit of history with them as well.
A lot,
certain things,
yeah.
Right. And
That's
that is
true.
all comes in handy.
Yeah, no, that's true. It depends on the type of text, I guess, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that you write.
Formal, informal style, and pragmatics.
Register.
What, yes,
Mm-hmm.
what do we say in
Informal
qualification?
text or
Yes.
formal.
En Spanish se dice usted, tú, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is important to at least give some thought to these different types of knowledge because that will be applicable and reflected in how we think about activities. Right? Just developing these writing tasks and exercises. We want to know what kind of stuff we're working with in terms of what is being provided to the students by way of foreground activities or warm-up activities, scaffolding in general, but also the things that they already themselves know. And the chapter talks about these different knowledge types in terms of 4 categories, and I will 5, okay. I will call on Jose Antonio to walk us through them.
Content, context, genre, system, knowledge, and process.
Mm-hmm.
Content, context, genre, process, knowledge, how to carry out this, and next is syntax, convention. So content,
Yeah,
Like pretty much covers
Yeah.
it all.
exactly.
It's this is straight from the chapter, which Vinny's in your inbox.
What?
This is
My
straight from the
inbox?
chapter.
That?
It was attached to the invitation to the last reading group.
Yes, as it
Oh, so
always
you-
is.
You got it.
Yes.
Okay.
I even downloaded it, I just didn't have time to read it because I was in that conference in London.
Do do we feel a need to add to these or?
Wait, where's the knowledge students?
No, there was one more thing that we felt, or well, I felt at least, was left out here, and that is the knowledge of technology.
Yes. Oh,
Oh, right.
yes, how do we work with Google Translate and with the computer?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the design itself.
Texting, and that is especially salient when it comes to, I'm repeating myself here, but when it comes to texting, because our students text all the time, nonstop, using different apps. They use different techniques, different programs in the English-speaking or American context. Now, I am wondering if this knowledge of technology would be translatable to other contexts as well. So, for instance, can you, as an English-speaking student from the United States, if you go to, let's say, Brazil, and you want to use, I don't know, the standard set of emojis, right, that are in your phone, that are stored there. When communicating in Portuguese with people from Portugal, would they be able to correctly interpret the signs, the characters, the memes, the animations that are used here? Because we can.
But are they that different? Because I think most of the apps are designed here. They're not designed in Brazil.
No, but when it comes to technology, I include in it also the knowledge of the memes and emoji. So, for instance, when I was texting back and forth with João a year and a half ago, and at one point I sent him this.
Ooh.
See?
What does it mean?
That means perfect.
Yes, I know, but what does it mean to them?
It depends on the context, but it can be
I would
It was-
like
it was
this too.
or this, you have
Or
to be careful.
food. Oh, it was
It's like,
great.
perfect, good
Yeah.
idea. Okay, we're
Something
gonna do
like
it that
that.
way. That's how you would
That's how,
interpret it.
absolutely.
But that's not how he interpreted it.
Really? What
No.
other meaning does it have?
Imagine.
And I didn't know that, right?
No.
Then imagine your
I wouldn't
students.
have known that
And those are
either.
the kind of situations where not only
Ah.
communication breaks down, but
Uh-oh.
also this kind of knowledge is required. Because,
Yes.
as a student or as just a user, you don't think twice about using these characters.
Exactly.
Your language might be
Yeah.
correct, but then you send something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this.
So did he point it out to you?
Yeah.
What did he say?
Oh,
He explained to me what it meant.
Oh,
yeah, there's one here.
I wonder if there's more like that.
There is.
Are-
There's a lot.
This is really nasty. This one.
Okay, but we don't have that here, I think.
Well,
Do we?
Rock on.
the rock on.
Oh, yeah,
Rock on.
I would never use it.
Yes,
I don't
people
rock
I
on.
use
young,
it.
young people.
Right, exactly. So that I'm not afraid of. This one I'm afraid of. I could totally use that.
And now you
What is rock? What is it? What's this other meaning? It's just
It's cabrón, o sea, it's
it was
something like
you've
that.
been, you've got horns, you've been cheated.
Oh,
It's-
right.
it's-
I know that
yeah.
in Southern Europe that is true. Yeah, yeah.
But now they included these, so specific.
Well, but I think this is all universal,
Yes,
right? But I think it's all these different
Exactly.
signs, different emojis, different
Uh-huh.
memes that mean one thing here, that
Right.
that mean something
That can
else
be
there.
dangerous. Yeah.
Which I think is something that needs to be considered when we're talking about writing. Because
Sure.
writing does happen mostly through texting these days,
Mhm.
right? Through the
Mhm.
computer mediation. Okay, so what is writing?
What is writing? I would say anything that you put on a screen or on paper. Anything that you, any production that is not speaking.
text.
But I thought the whole thing with multiliteracies, according to what I've heard here,
Okay.
when you were speaking on Mondays, that writing is not only what you put.
Mm.
Oh, no, that's not right. That was something else. Text.
Text. So we're talking about
Text
text.
is
Text
text.
is just any kind of cultural, linguistic artifact.
But that's
right?
text and writing is not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's yours. No,
Okay.
writing is, yes, it's not oral speech.
See, writing is not oral.
Yeah.
Which I was thinking
Yes,
text and I
anything
was not
that's
thinking.
not
That's
production,
it.
it's not
They-
speaking.
No, but
I think
you know
that's
what you were getting confused is that we were saying that writing can also be dialogic in the sense that you can have a dialogue through writing, because when you write a piece of text, you have an audience in mind or somebody in mind that you're directing yourself. So even if it's not real time, there is that sense of communication. So it's not.
It can be dialogic, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I do have a summary of what writing is in the multiliteracies framework by Richard Hart, who was here almost exactly a year ago today. So he defines it as an integrative, student-centered approach, so solidly grounded in an available designs core that also tends to the interdependencies among textual products, cognitive processes, and sociocultural factors. It's an approach that focuses on meaning as it is constructed through the form in an actual context.
Wait, but that's not right.
Yeah.
That's what,
This is
what is multiliteracies approach is.
It's multiliteracies in general.
Yeah, because writing couldn't be
It's
on
an
the
Why am
approach.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
No, that's not right.
That's not writing. You are
But
correct.
it cannot be writing?
No.
No, this is
No,
not.
that's the
Why did I
definition
enter
of the
it here?
multiliteracies approach.
You know what? There was a writing slide before this,
You did.
and I just got rid of the wrong one.
We can make up our own definition.
Well, the next bullet points,
Oh, they are,
they
okay.
talk about writing in the
Target
multiliteracies
comprehension
approach.
approach. 5 types of knowledge integrated.
Is this something?
What's the 3 approaches?
The 3 approaches to writing is something that we discussed on Monday, and they were process-oriented approach,
Oh, genre, process, and
genre,
product.
process, and product. Yes.
And product?
Yeah.
Mhm. So the genre approaches in the chapter were described as pertaining and focusing on genres, but it was also mentioned that they're not very popular in the United States context. Then the process-oriented approach was emerged during with the emergence of the communicative teaching method, and then the product-oriented approach was popular before CLT.
But the process and the genre are often combined.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the genre, they use it much more than they realize, probably not under the name of systematic, functional, whatever it is by Holiday. But in general,
Yeah.
I think it's very, very useful in high school, in college.
Well, just with everything else, it's a matter of who looks into these things and how they're classified, right? Who describes them and how. But yeah, any other questions?
Yes.
Mhm.
I don't want you to have to rehash everything you did on Monday, but the 5 types of knowledge?
I'm sorry, which one?
Those part that we were talking, content.
Oh, that's that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Types of knowledge.
Yeah, okay, that's it.
Systematic process.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so writing and the multiliteracies approach
Mhm.
highlights these 5 knowledge types, or
Mhm.
6 knowledge types if we count technology into it as well. All 3 approaches to writing, so process, product, and genre are folded into it,
Mhm.
and then it does it by targeting cultural linguistics and sociocultural dimensions of literacy. Okay, so these 3 dimensions right there, we did talk about them on Monday, and we will go back to them. Now, did you guys, you worked with the text on Monday? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we did.
You did?
Oh, yes, we did.
And Jose Antonio, you guys also worked with the text, okay. I don't want to repeat it too much. Maybe instead of having Amy look for a text herself, maybe we can pull up one of your texts and kind of discuss it from the standpoint of linguistic, cognitive, and sociocultural available designs. And you have it on your computer. Okay, great. What I'm going to do is airplay it?
No.
That way we can all see it. Settings. This is the preferences right here.
I'm ready.
Yes, that's good. I knew it was good.
No, I want to see.
Well, I want to be able to project it. I want to have
Yeah,
it.
very interesting.
Yeah. That's right. Let's really turn it on. And let's do 8.
Neat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do that?
Okay, and so now we can see, I can pull up the text that we're working with. I'll show you later.
Can you do that with your television at home?
Yeah.
You need to have Apple TV.
Yeah. I
Everything is
even from your phone, you can do it with everything. Yeah, it's really nice.
So Apple TV is the box.
It's a little box, so you can just plug into the TV, but it's in the back. And we have it configured so that it's open to anyone who wants to use it.
Really?
That's
great.
Okay, so what we're going to show you is a writing workshop that we do at the intermediate level.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole unit we have been talking about problems, global problems that communities want to be engaged with, and then towards the end we concentrated on the topic of immigration. So they read text about it and they saw film, etc. So this is the final writing assignment that they have, and they need to write an argumentative text about immigration. Okay, so this is what it is. So then they have a video that explains the genre and what the sections are for an argumentative text.
Right.
Then they have a text. So this text is about, it's an essay, an opinion essay about an important author. It's from Peru, Vargas Llosa.
Sure.
And so, although it was written in 1996, it's still incredibly current today. And so they read this, and then they need to prepare to write, and so they need to do research about the different crises of immigration around the world, not only in the southern border, why the reasons for the immigration, why they need to leave, and what are the consequences in their countries where they are accepted, sociocultural dimension. Then organizing your ideas, so there you have specifically about the genre. So what are the different parts of the genre for an argumentative text, the presentation to present your argument, how are you going to demonstrate and prove your argument and your conclusion. Then linguistics. Then they come to class and they need to express to a partner what it is that they learned about and how are they going to express in writing. And then they have grammar, so they have some of the sentences that would trigger opinion, and so they need to write several sentences with these structures about the topic of immigration, including also with grammar other connectors, so what types of connectors you're going to be using in argumentative text to add information, to oppose arguments, to clarify, etc. So they have their connectivity. They have they have another activity about connectors, and then they would bring the essay to class, and they would have it peer reviewed. they would read each other's and then before, but I would specify, okay, you're going to look for first content, then switch. Now you're going to look for grammar. And within grammar, you have to confirm that the arguments are properly exposed, that you have included vocabulary from the first two units, that the connectors are. That's great.
These early activities are developed for writing based on a text, right? Highlighting the 3 different dimensions that we were talking about. That also requires you to use these different 6 knowledge types. This is kind of how it could interact in the text. There is more to it on the handout that I just gave you. It's the same handout that I distributed on Monday. On the front page, the other one's the front page. On the front page, you have the 4 pedagogical acts, and these are described in the context of the teaching of writing. And on the flip side, there is an example of a lesson plan with activities. Now, in terms of the activities, the lesson plan only contains the names of the activities, but there is a description of them on the other handout as well. Okay, so let us go back to. I'm gonna have to disconnect from AirPlay, and to do that, you go to the actually the other one, the one that the Windows menu. Here we go. And then you just hit off. Go back to. And I think we can work together on this. Available designs. Okay, teaching for pedagogical acts. Perfect. Okay, so what I would like to do is to, for those of us who are here on Monday, to take another look on the text that you worked with on Monday, and think about activities that could be developed for writing, such that they would also resonate with the multiliteracy framework. So you guys have a bunch of them that are already developed for the online module. If each of you can think of something else, just one activity that may be based on the same text or maybe a different text, same for you, Amy.
Same for me. Yeah.
So you can think of a text in which you're teaching, so Dutch, it could be a poem, or it could be a narrative, whatever genre you choose, and look at the activities that are on the handouts, and see if you could come up with one on your own that would fit somewhere within the multiliteracies framework. And then do you need a computer?
No, I don't have it with me at all. It's at home.
Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. I can.
What I can do is I can just give you this, just so that you can find the text.
Okay.
Okay, and then we'll actually, yeah, and then we'll work on it. Okay, so you guys worked on text yesterday.
You didn't get to file.
Were you using, was it in Czech, was it in English, was it in Portuguese?
No, it wasn't in Portuguese.
It was in Portuguese. Okay.
It was this chronic.
Chronicle. Chronic
What's chronic? Ah, yeah?
Okay. So this is, so we can just find a text in Portuguese, could be the same text. Right, so here's the text. And then we've got 4 pedagogical acts.
Right.
So on the flip side, there is an example lesson plan that is structured around a text or writing activity, right? And in the acronyms here, it indicates whether an activity is situated practice or construction, so on and so forth. The descriptions, I mean, there's some descriptions, a couple of bolded activities here already. For the other ones, you have them in the other handout right here.
Right.
So, you know, whatever strikes your fancy that you find interesting, see if you could develop or think of something that would follow along these lines in relation to this text.
Right.
Okay.
Got it.
So this is the.
It's more a short story.
Okay, so it's short stories, so that's your genre.
Yeah.
Perfect. So what could we do with the short story?
So the thing I do with text is they read the text and then we use context.
Okay.
And then the discussion goes around the Brazil as the United States is not people have different, many different books because the U.S. immigration is the last 2 centuries. So what I do is I give them, I show them, after we discuss the text, I show them photographs of actual immigrants that went to Brazil in the end of the 19th century, 20th century. And I ask them to write about the things that these immigrants had done.
So their
before.
stories.
Yes.
So okay, so they're short stories about these characters. Perfect, yeah. And that would fall where within our framework here. Maybe not here, but on the other side. So what kind of activity would that be? That be situated practice or construction for transform practice?
No, that is. Tenemos que pensar que tenemos el concepto de
Yuri's there. Okay. Transform practice. Because to me it strikes me the most is the transform practice. Where you discuss, you read the story, you know how you have enough information to talk right, about the conditions of the past. You just apply all these different types of knowledge within to write your own story about these people. Okay, Dean, what do you have?
Okay, so.
Let's go around this one.
Say again?
Let's go around starting with you.
All right. So I don't have a clear idea yet because just did this quickly, but we read a lot of newspaper articles. So the genre would be a newspaper article.
Okay, so we've already.
Yes, and specifically we did a lot this semester about sports because I have a lot of sports athletes in my class and they're interested in it. And specifically in the last few weeks about the soccer club Ajax and the Champions League. So we've been talking about that actually a lot. Okay. So what I could do is, for instance, textual comparison, about the same topic from different newspapers. The same, the same focus, namely the match against, for instance, Tottenham Hotspur on this past Tuesday, and then compare the two articles in terms of vocabulary that is used, that is, if they compare, if they use the same vocabulary,
Okay.
right? And if the writing style differs.
Sure.
So I mean, the textual comparison number 2 in the, I would do that, read 1 or 2 model texts and
And which
compare them.
pedagogical acts would that?
So that would be a situated practice, I think.
What do the others think?
Or maybe it's overt instruction, it's conceptualizing maybe. It is like both.
Then we have
Yeah.
So you use European attention to the language too, right?
Mhm.
The grammar itself.
Uh-huh. Right. And then we could.
Critical thinking.
It is
Say again?
critical thinking.
Just
true.
That's true. Yes.
The sensitization through reading.
Yeah, that's true. And then we could do a transform practice writing assignment where they are sports journalists and write about, for instance, the Yankees or whatever, and
Mhm.
describe or any other sport that they're interested in, or one of their own teams, in the meet that they just had, and they are the sports writer who now writes an article about the
Is it
sport paper.
oftentimes the case where then you have the different writing styles are used by different papers or different sources? Because if you're doing
In this
different
topic,
study-
maybe not so much,
Okay.
I would think, right?
Because I was thinking
But-
that it'd be like, so you can do a comparison between the 2 papers to see what language.
The style, maybe not so much, but the language, yes.
And then for sport practice, I'm sure you can have students do, or imagine that they themselves are reporters,
Uh-huh.
they're reporting a team, but let's say on top of that, they report for a team while working for a specific paper.
Right, yeah, that would be very difficult though, because it's a higher understanding of, that would be difficult for Dutch people too, to write in the style of that newspaper, when they just don't know what the newspaper style is. Sports is so general and you don't need an opinion.
True.
Like when you write about politics, I can see that you give it a certain slant,
Mhm.
depending on the newspaper, but with sports you wouldn't, I think.
But I think that the perspective can be very different actually if you read an article about sports in the New York
Oh.
Times than if you read it in the Daily News.
You know what would be interesting
Right.
maybe? That you are not a Dutch journalist writing about Ajax, but an English newspaper writing about the same, journalist writing about the same match, and then you get a difference of style, perspective, opinion, where maybe that might be
From
interesting.
the outside.
Because then you see it through different eyes, because you are now on the side of the other team. And does that influence your writing?
So this means that also incorporates the genre.
Yeah,
focus rather than
that's
just
actually,
grammar.
that would be actually a pretty thing to do, I think.
Mhm.
And just for everyone, for all the students of the class, you
Oh,
have
sure.
to write about the sport.
Why not? I mean, there's always a topic that is not interesting to everybody, but you can talk about, you can write about something that some people don't really want to think, like global warming. Some people don't even want to think about that, and are comfortable with that. There's always something you don't want to.
Yeah.
Sports is, in general, is pretty inoffensive to everybody, I would say. Even if you're not a sports fan, you can still write something about the sport. You're not a sports fan.
I think that I wouldn't know how to write about
We can write about how you're not a sports
Yeah, but
fan.
if you
don't know how
that's
to write
even
about
better.
sports.
If you don't know how to write about sport, that's even better, because then you read this and then now you see how you write about sports and you imitate it, which is actually we're using here too. Actually, that is really, it's even better if you don't like sports. That makes it even more interesting as a practice, I think.
Jose,
Can you-
you had a good activity.
So this is a short story about a Brazilian man that goes to get a haircut in Paris. And so the barber asked him things about Turkey. And there are all these questions about Turkey because actually the barber thinks that this man is Turkish. And so in the end, the Brazilian man ends up asking him why all these questions about Turkey. He was saying, well, I want to talk about your country. I said, what makes you think that I'm Turkish?
Yeah.
Well, where are you from? I'm Brazilian. And then he starts asking questions about Brazil, just like any stereotypical barber.
Right.
So here's the whole short story is about this idea that Brazil, like the United States, is a melting pot. It has had many immigrants have come to Brazil, and so that's why Brazilians have all these different looks. And so what I do, we analyze the story. I ask questions about the story. And I ask questions why the barber would think that this man was Turkish, and they have to come up with ideas. They have to discuss among themselves why the barber would think that this man was from Turkey, and why Paris at the time, because it was in the 60s, and even today it could also apply. And so then I showed them a series of actual immigrants that went to Brazil. There are pictures of these immigrants that went to Brazil. And so I asked them to write a story using the pluperfect. So what they had done in their own countries before they went to Brazil. So it's to use the pluperfect, had done. So they had had a job, they had bought a house, they had children before they came to Brazil. And so they have to write their own short stories about this particular. They have to choose a photograph, one family, because actually all the photographs are families. These are not like the original, like the immigration in the beginning, which were men that went to all these different places. These are families that are traveling to Brazil, and so they have to write these short stories talking about that using the pluperfect.
So it's a
Nice, yeah.
transform
Very
practice.
nice,
Right?
yeah.
It's interesting because transform practice that highlights story writing as a genre, but it also does so based on text that is not written, but it is visual. So you can see how these different types, different modalities can intersect each other. Even though we are
Right,
talking
true.
about
Yes.
writing in written practice, it doesn't mean that they have the text needs to be necessarily serving as a model or as a prompt. So you can use other things for it as well. Okay, we are as always running out of time, but what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you this little tiny gizmo that I found. It's called hypothesis. And it is a Google Chrome plugin. The way it works is, let's see, how should we like this? You know, rather than, so you can go to web.hypothesis.is, and then if you hit get started, it will walk you through the process of opening an account and registering for it, and it will take you to, this only works with Google Chrome, by the way, and it will take you to the Chrome store. It's being Chrome, yeah. Where you'll be able to download the plugin and install it. It's very straightforward. We've done it a number of times with different things. I'll let you do it on your own. Instead, what I wanted to do is to show you what you can do with it. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And for the purpose of this activity, I found an article from my hometown. it's an article from a newspaper, and there I place strategically a couple annotations, and it's actually a ridiculous story. So there's one. To show all of them. No annotations. That's really lie, but I did. Annotations. Let's see if we can refresh it. Yeah.
Good.
Okay, so let's view all of them. And so this would be a so this would be a question, right? That is focused on a grammatical form.
Do you answer it right there?
And they can answer right here. So of course here I am the one who is answering.
And if all of us would answer, it would
Then
separate.
Right, it was separated by a thread.
And we need to be allowed in too to do that.
Well, right now this is public.
Mm.
So what you can do if you want to keep it public, and by public, in theory, in practice it is open to the whole world, but then again, how many people actually use it,
Yeah.
right? So if you want to keep it as seamless as possible in terms of sharing it, you can just leave it public and share the link with your students. And then once your student goes to that link, he or she will have access to the platform.
How can you, if we wanted to use this in the website that we're using, because we can do it?
It doesn't have the code to copy to.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah?
So let me show you. Do you know what's the URL to your website? Or is it in Courseworks? No, it's
No,
it's
it's a blog.
It's a
blog.
blog,
It's a
yeah,
blog.
blogs, right?
At blogs.columbia.edu /span SPANUN 2102.
That's it.
That should be fine. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna
Can you use your unit?
use as just use, but I don't know if that's fine. I'm just gonna use this.
So
Okay,
if you
so
go
access.
in Unidad 1, the first one, and go to Inmigración in the center one, that one, yes.
That one.
Yeah, because that's an article there, which already has a few things. So if you could scroll down, that's an article from a
That's an
newspaper,
article,
and
right.
it's already,
So let's see if we can. Oh, you know what? Because I haven't installed the actual extension. That's why.
right,
But once you,
Okay.
But you wouldn't be able to do it yourself from the outside, right? Because you don't have administrative power.
Right, yeah.
So
Yeah.
now my question is, if one of us does it, does it automatically appear in that article so that the students, any of the students in any of our
No,
sections?
so the way this works is that it's an extension for a browser. In this case, it
I
would be
see.
Chrome, right? So if you open anything
So
that has
that's
text in Chrome with that extension downloaded, and if your students also do the same, so they open it in Chrome and have the same extension downloaded, then you can interact with each other and they can interact with one another using that extension.
It's like insert learn.
Yeah, it is like that, yeah, except for, like I said, this is strictly about text. And so what I wanted to do, and it's already after 3:30, I wanted to see if some of the activities that we thought about together could be used here with insert learning. So in other words,
Yeah, that would be great instead of having, for example, one thing I've always wanted to do is instead of having all of the glossary of terms, that would be great. Right?
So you would,
So-
that as an annotation to the
As an
same.
annotation.
and then they can also annotate on their own.
So instead of having this, because in some of our texts, we've got a long list of this, and it makes it really awkward.
Because you have to go back and forth. Well, you have to go to the bottom to see the
They
word.
love it because it's super clear how it is.
But if you just click on the word,
I
you get
prefer
it.
this than that.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
I think as a student, I would prefer that, because you just click on the, you don't have to go all the way to the bottom.
I find it messy.
So like for me, so I annotated it as, what do you think a suspicious object is?
Right.
And this is an open question, it is a foregrounding question, it would be situated practice, including expressing their preconceived ideas about the word situate, of course in English, but it's applicable to other languages as well. And they simply respond to it, and there's no limit to how many responses you have, how long you can write. You can also, let's say here, go to, I don't know,
How do you
officers.
answer? Exactly. How do you answer?
Yeah.
You highlight it,
Yeah.
and then you hit annotate.
Annotate.
It's pretty straightforward.
And question.
And then they're all lined
Yeah, I
up
see
on the
that.
side.
But you said that in order for them to post a reply, they do need the extension
Right,
as
because
well.
this is not a part of anything.
Right.
This is not a part of the website, it's not going to be integrated, right? But if your students will, so it will hinge on a number of things, such as whether you allow them to use computers in the classroom, right?
Right.
This will be, I am not sure how well this works on mobile devices. So, if they want to use on their cell phones, which is instinctive for many people, I am not sure if this is something that they would be able to use.
But this is more of a reading tool.
Yeah.
For reading,
It's a
sure.
collaborative reading more than a writing, right?
We have the exercise.
Well, but it could be used for writing as
Yes,
well,
sure.
specifically for collaborative
For
writing too.
understanding.
I mean, it's great for glossing, but I was,
Yeah.
what I really want
Yes,
to do
it's
is to
great for
see
glossing.
what else we can do with it.
Yeah.
And whether this is something that we even, need to use, or if we can
To understand the
stick
text.
to the pen and paper method.
But for glossing, if you just do that with it, they do not need extension and plug, right?
They do.
Even for that?
For
To read?
anything.
Okay.
I mean, if,
Okay.
because this little plugin gives you the capability to annotate things.
For vocabulary.
Right.
For working with the vocabulary, I see it.
Okay.
Exactly, and for the grammar. What is this tense and this one? For
Uh-huh.
example, you have an exercise. I remember.
Well, so here I wrote, okay, continue, so this would be the last,
Which would be a writing exercise.
which would be a writing exercise. So continue the recording by describing how the student built the object, the cannon wheels. So this would be follow-up, transform practice, exercise. Now, does this need to be something that we need this plugin for? I don't know. We could maybe also structure it in a way that, because this, the way that this app works, the plugin works, implies certain linearity, right? So contributions are posted one after the other, which if we are thinking about story writing or storytelling, or composing something that is a linear plot, if we want to do it collaboratively, then this would be very appropriate for it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's real. But in that case, then
Nice.
we would need to recopy separately the article, right?
And again, one last thing I want to show you. So this is currently kept public, meaning that anyone who has this plugin installed in their Chrome browsers has access to it. So you can have totally random people commenting on these things, and they just post it at any time. But if you want, you can also make it a private group that will be closed just to your class.
Right.
Can you use it with a Word document?
No, this is only so
For-
it's for a browser, meaning that it only works with websites, unless it only works with websites, meaning documents that are opened with a browser. So if you want to use it with a Word document, you convert it to an HTML file and then open it in the browser, and that way it will work. To convert it to HTML file, just save it as HTML as opposed to .x.
What was the name of the app of last week with the videos? That it was very similar to this, but the
Video End.
Video End.
Also annotating, but videos.